Hello, everybody. So today, the topic of this live chat is losing weight once and for all, right? Lose weight now, lose weight forever. I'm gonna let a few people join in. Of course, the more I pause, the more people bounce in and go, what's this goofy looking dude talking about? I'm out. But man 99, you really need to stick around. Okay, well, nobody wants to stick around and actually listen. Okay, that's fine. I'm only talking about how to change your bum life. Okay, so if you have a lot of weight to lose, please stick around. You need to watch this whole video. I'm serious. This is the one. I'm the guy, okay? If you don't believe me, stick around. So, what is the biggest problem facing humanity right now regarding severe weight gain, obesity, these sorts of things? Is it a lack of information? Possibly. You could say that we lack concise, clear information, right? Can everybody hear me okay? Anybody? I'm not seeing any comments. Yep, okay, thank you. Beluga Gelato, that's a great name. So we have information. Arguably, we have too much information, right? That's very, very possible. But at one point or another, we've all encountered information that was the right information, okay? So when we found it in that moment, why did it not instantly change our lives? Well, there could be a couple reasons for that. I want to get right into a big one. It's easy to think that we kind of drift through life accumulating weight like it had to be that way. Like that is the way our bodies tend toward. But that's not really the case. And you see this a lot when people talk about why they're the one with the medical issue that makes it so they can't lose weight, right? And how often are these medical issues caused initially by unhealthy lifestyle, weight gain, whatnot? Point being, we have our hands on the controls. If you gain weight, it does involve 99.99999% of the time us putting too much food into our mouths, chewing it and swallowing it, and then not doing a commensurate amount of activity, right? For some reason, this is hard for us collectively to get our heads around. Me too. And partly we avoid realizing these things, but if I handed you the perfect diet, right? The perfect diet plan, the perfect everything, what would your chances of success be? What are the chances that this is the time that you're gonna get motivated enough or get mad at yourself enough? You're gonna somehow this time gin up enough special magic, you're gonna make it. And when you get the weight off, you're gonna keep it off. What fundamentally changed, right? We know it's not the new diet, right? Oh, you finally found the right diet. Oh, okay, no, you didn't. Because almost every other diet you've tried worked for other people. If you stick with most diets, they will work. If they put you into a calorie deficit, they will get some weight off your body, right? That's the sad thing about all this fad diet culture is the weird twisted fact of it all is like, yeah, a lot of it is driven by misinformation, but diet fad culture kind of is awesome because it shows you the kaleidoscope, the huge range of ways that you can lose weight. Are they all the most ideal or the most healthy? No, but you can lose weight in a number of ways. You can do keto, you can be vegan, you can be vegetarian, you can be carnivore, you could eat nothing but chia seeds and superfoods, I guess. Well, maybe not, I don't know. Right, there are people who go on a potato diet, egg diets. I mean, the amount of stuff that people can live on in small quantities for a period of time is astonishing, and it really shouldn't be, because we actually evolved to go long periods of time without proper nutrition, without just keeling over and dying. Metabolically, we have a lot of cool machinery that it stays sort of under dust covers. We never have to kick the dust off of it and use it, right? Our ability to function in low calorie environments, I'm talking about severe caloric restriction, like not eating at all for days at a time, right? I'm not advising you do this. I'm just saying, like, when people are put in survival situations, how do they survive, right? They're not getting their daily caloric needs met through, drinking water out of rain puddles and eating crickets, okay? They're surviving because the body can go quite a long time without eating. Partially, this is just how life was for most of our ancestors, for most of our human history, right? So we do not tend toward being overweight as a matter of course. Like, it doesn't have to be that way, because being overweight really is only a symptom of modern culture. You could say maybe it started happening in times of extreme largesse from the abundance that was started to being created through cities and, townships, chieftains, things like that. Concentrations of power, therefore concentrations of wealth. So if you look, let's take the scientific view. Anatomically modern humans are 100,000, 200,000 years old, right? Cities have only been around for about 5,000 or 6,000 years, right? The really big cities where we really started to see concentrations of wealth, maybe 3,000-4,000 years ago, right? That's nothing. That's a tiny percentage of the time that anatomically modern humans have been on this earth. Sorry, something in the comments is, what should I get for dinner? Oh, Measy. Well, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. It's like if you put your dinner on a smaller plate, sometimes it seems like, more filling. Sir, thanks to you, I'm going to therapy so I can make this weight loss happen. Good for you. Good for you. And my one recommendation would be to find someone if you have adverse childhood events / traumatic events in your childhood, I would definitely try to find someone who is trauma informed. That's the kind of buzzword. That means someone who's aware of the massive impact that adverse childhood events have on people and on their thinking. So, Chris Dad, thank you, man. Baji. I've had someone else tell me that, and honestly, they really did look a lot like me. Yeah. So, people with their loud ass trucks. All right. Oh yeah, I know that guy. Jeez. We handsome, that's right. So, you know what? I'm just gonna flow with it. Okay. It's so hard to keep. You're traumatized as fuck. Yeah, you know what? Guess what, guys? If you are really drawn to me, like if you watch me speak and something in your heart just goes, oh my gosh, this guy has what I need. Most of the time when people feel that way, maybe they're recognizing sort of an authenticity coming from me. But a lot of times, if you are people who were abused growing up tend to find each other. And it's the same reason that people who are abused growing up tend to find abusers as well. There can be, that's a double-edged sword, right? If you had a really abusive dad, you might seek out an abusive husband. If you had a narcissistic mother, you might seek out a narcissistic wife or husband or whatever. So, well, we got 28 people and I'm all over the place. So my record is like 110. Can we get it to 110? Do you guys really have anything that important to be doing? You could be scrolling a bunch of bullshit right now, and I'm gonna teach you some really good stuff today. Do I think it's wise to set time-related weight goals? Lose X weight by X time. Great question. This kind of gets me back on track. Okay, this gets us back to mentality. Our culture is obsessed with goals. But for a culture that's so obsessed with goal setting, we seem to suck at meeting our goals, especially when we set arbitrary goals that are not connected to our well-being, right? So for instance, I say, I need to lose 30 pounds. Oh, you know what? 2 months from today is my birthday. So 99% of us, what are we going to do? We're going to either directly or indirectly decide either like, oh, it'd be really great to lose that for my birthday, or I need to lose that weight by my birthday, right? Somehow my birthday will be ruined if I only lose 28.5 pounds, right? We do this to ourselves. This comes from a lot of different human frailty, but it's fundamentally this thing we do where we try to project control onto our circumstances via the use of goal setting, especially time-sensitive goals, right? So people will tell you that, have you ever heard of SMART goals? Does anybody know the SMART goals, right? It's, what's the first one? What's the fart one? Good job, John. Maybe I should drink more coffee. So SMART goals, that's an acronym. Something, attainable, realistic, timely. Basically like specific, thank you, specific, like manageable or something like that. But it's all SMART, right? It sounds good and there's a lot of sense behind it. Like most of the things within the SMART acronym I think are great. But the timely nature is a little bit tricky because you would think, well, if a goal doesn't have a time stamp on it, then what's going to be my motivation to get it done, right? Is that not the question? So go with me on this. Measurable. Thank you. So if your assumption is that if we don't put a time boundary on this goal, it's not going to get done, what kind of goal are we setting? What does that say about our goal? Okay, so when you find yourself making goals to be at a certain weight and a certain time, I want you to start realizing how arbitrary that is. Who said you have to lose X number of pounds by X day, right? Who said you have to lose X number of pounds? For most people, they know the general direction they need to go, okay? They are up to their neck, barely treading water, and there's land, okay? Guys, someone tell me in the comments, exactly by when do they need to know to get to land? They're fucking drowning, and I need to know, because they're not gonna get to land unless we put a reasonable, accountable time limit on this, okay? If we don't put a time limit on this person who's about to drown to death, they're not gonna wanna swim to land, right? No, of course not. They know where land is. If you have a severe weight issue that's holding back your enjoyment of life, you know what direction you need to go in. Does it matter how many pounds you need to lose? No, it doesn't. It doesn't matter one bit. Okay? Literally, the only time it would matter is in how you specifically strategize how you're going about structuring your diet, which if you are 15 pounds overweight and you're really fit, you have a lot of muscle and you're athletic and you have good mobility, how I would specifically structure your diet and workout plan would be different than someone who has at least 100 pounds to go and doesn't have a muscle anywhere on their body. So those specifics might be different. However, both people need to do the exact same thing, which is take what is for them the next step, and only the next step. You think that someone who has 15 pounds to lose has it easier than someone who has 100 pounds to lose. But is that always the case? In some ways, yes. In some ways, no. The person who has less weight to lose does technically have less fat they need to burn off as energy. However, that person can be fooled by the smaller size of their diet, right? They could say, well, it's only 15 pounds. And that could be something that changes their perception of it, that makes it seem less important that they get to it. When they want to eat that ice cream sundae instead of have their cottage cheese at night, they might go, it's only 15 pounds. If I cheat myself today, it's not a big deal. Whereas the person who is only 15 pounds from their goal might just as soon say, I'm only 15 pounds away. If I just, sorry, Gavin, I'm rallying right now. Later on, I will open it up, and if somebody wants to jump on, might go live with someone, do a little quick coaching. So someone who has only 15 pounds to lose might say, listen, it's worth it for me to just suck it up and not eat the ice cream tonight because I'm so close to my goal, right? It really depends on how you look at it. 15 pounds can be as big of a barrier as you need to get to your goal, right? I honestly, to be completely honest with you guys, I've been trying to get really, really lean over the last year, and I have run into weird mental obstacles because of how easy it is compared to trying to lose 200 pounds. Because trying to lose weight to feel better is a whole kind of a different ball of wax than trying to lose weight to save your life and be there for your kids, right? It's different. And so, the amount of weight you have to lose can be your friend or it can be your enemy. It's all about how you look at it, right? So getting back to goal setting, if you are setting goals, why are you trying to control the outcome by setting a goal? Saying I need to lose 100 pounds will not change anything by itself. And I know maybe for some people that may seem like super simple, but some people need to hear this, okay? Just saying, I need to lose 100 pounds by this time next year. Okay, you wrote that in your journal. You put it in a bottle and threw it off of a magical bridge. And now the spell has been cast and you will magically, this will happen now, right? Does anybody know the answer? No, it's probably not going to happen. Because setting a goal, anybody can set a goal. Anybody can say, I desperately want this weight off of my body. Most people are in touch with the part of themselves that is unhappy with their current level of weight loss. But what gets us is we don't look at the other side of the equation, right? We're in tune with the side that says, gee, it's not fun being 400 pounds. I don't like this. Okay, it's not social pressure, like that stuff exists and it sucks and it doesn't make me feel good. But if I lived in a vacuum, right, where everyone was nice to me and complimented me on my weight, I still wouldn't want to be 400 pounds. Like, have you ever gone for a jog or run with your kids or jumped? Like, it's fun. Like, being able to move your body is great. You don't need anyone to tell you that losing the weight is the direction you want to go. The question you need to be asking is not, how do I motivate myself to swim toward land? Okay? Every single one of us who's severely overweight and feels helpless, we know what direction land is in. Is ice cream the direction toward land? No, that's swimming straight out into deeper water, right? Partially maybe because you just want to finally drown and have it over with, okay? And we do that. Every single one of us on this chat has probably done that at some point, right? The difference between whether or not you will swim to land versus swimming out into the ocean is not the information at your disposal. It's not whether somebody has told you about keto or not. The difference is not motivation, because you've always been motivated, right? You don't need motivation as a drowning person to swim toward land. The question is, why are you out in the middle of the ocean to begin with? Why are you 400 pounds? What inside of you, right? What inside of you wants to be at 400 pounds? When it comes to choosing cottage cheese or ice cream for your last meal of the day, who inside of you is choosing ice cream? And I say this with zero judgment. I'm not suggesting you get in a combative relationship with this other self, okay? You already are in a combative relationship with this other self. Is that making sense? Okay, so don't ask, how do I swim toward land? If you're not asking, well, who towed you out there to begin with? Because the you that wants to live didn't just trip and fall 2 miles into the ocean. Somebody paddled out there. So we have to figure out who that person is. I'm not the most religious guy, but I find myself thinking about Bible verses that got like spewed around, shared a lot, like things like Jesus would say, or that Paul would say, right? There's that classic line in Romans where Paul says, we do things that we don't want to do. Why do we do this? And it's like, he's people in religious circles talk in terms of sin and not sinning and being holy and all this stuff. But what Paul is pointing out is that he is flabbergasted at the fact that there's the part of him that wants to be holy and upright and good, and the part of him that just wants to eat donuts and watch porn till 3 a.m. Okay? Obviously, in his day, both of those things existed. We all know that there's a pole. There's at least a duality. If you're anything like me, it's more like what's a duality times 3,700 different things pulling at me, right? It feels like chimpanzees in your brain, and they all want something slightly different. And that's why it feels like it's impossible to get anywhere, because you can't please all the voices in your head. So, we have to ask the question, how did we get into the middle of the ocean? Yes, we can point, thank you, Captain Obvious, right? There's that guy at your gym who has never been more than 10 pounds overweight, and he has a social media account where he tells people how to lose weight, and he says, it's easy, bro, you just got to not eat. It's just because you're not taking responsibility, right? We've all seen this. We've seen it time and time again. We've told ourselves this. We've bought in. I'm the biggest take responsibility guy on the planet, okay? I'm the biggest take responsibility guy on the planet. Every single one of us, what am I teaching you to do? I'm teaching you how to take control of your life, right? I like responsibility. I like seeing people able to actually perform responsibility, not just preaching it at people, like beating them over the head with a stick. But what about the stuff that isn't your responsibility? What about the stuff that happened when you were a kid? Whose fault was it that you had shitty parents? Whose fault was it the thing that happened to you at summer camp? Whose fault was it when that teacher said something or did something that was just rotten, that no adult, no grown-ass person should ever say to a kid, either in passing or in true malice? Are we responsible for those things? We spend so much time trying to not be victims that we fail, so many of us, to recognize that we're fucking victims. And I'm not celebrating victim mentality. But guess what? If you've tried everything, if you tried being more responsible, if you've tried pulling yourself by your bootstraps, if you've tried setting goals and grinding harder and watching all the YouTube videos on how to grind, and you're still not getting anywhere, and you still fucking hate yourself, and you still can't lose a pound to save your life, even though you ostensibly are in complete control of what you eat and how you dictate your activity throughout the day, maybe the one thing you should consider is the one thing you have not allowed yourself to consider, which is that it's not all your responsibility. Maybe you are or were a victim. Bad shit happens. Bad shit happens to kids. Like, has anybody ever watched the news? Does anybody have their phone start blaring a siren out of nowhere and you shit your pants because another Amber Alert just went off? Bad shit happens to kids. And is it those kids' fault? Does anybody get the Amber Alert thing after they go to the bathroom and change their pants? Do they look at the Amber Alert and go, these damn kids, why don't they just take some responsibility? Then you wouldn't get kidnapped. That sounds cruel and insane to say that. Why do you say it to yourself? People talk about forgiving themselves. One of the best ways to forgive yourself is to admit that the things that happened to you that fucked you up before you were even fully formed weren't your fault, and that they actually happened, because the truth sets us free. It's not about celebrating victimhood. It's not about putting that stamp of victim on our foreheads and then making that our identity. It's not about any of that. It's about moving on. But you can't move on from something that you haven't accepted. Okay? Back to the ocean metaphor. We can't get to land. It doesn't matter how much information we have, right? And we're desperate. I get it. We're desperate. We know where land is, but we've tried to swim there before and we keep failing. And so part of us, as like a desperate rationality goes, well, maybe I'm doing something wrong. Like, I thought I knew how to doggy paddle in one direction. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. Right? You reflexively go, I must be the problem, right? You did the same thing when you were a kid. Kids are wonderful, beautiful things because they're innocent. What is innocence? It's assuming that what surrounds you loves you. It's assuming that what surrounds you is safe and is for you. And the minute you lose that, it starts, right? The self-blame, the false beliefs, the survival mechanisms, right? The avoidance of the pain. Because ever since you were 8 and that thing happened, you have now associated that pain with a time in your life when you were truly powerless. The trick is realizing now that you're not powerless. But how do you join? It's like having two magnets that are opposed. They're pushing against each other, right? You can't control what the other magnet is doing, right? Because that magnet is in pain. It's never going to reverse its polarity. The abused child or the neglected child inside can't just, you can't convince it through logic or any of that. Anyone ever try to calm down a temper tantrum from a 4-year-old? You don't use logic. You don't yell. You don't solve it by getting mad. You don't throw a bigger tantrum than the 4-year-old, which is what most of us do when things inside of us kind of rear up and go, I want love. And they ask for love in the form of pizza. We've tried fighting, we've tried screaming, we've tried all manner of convincing that voice, and it doesn't work. And after that, we feel helpless, hopeless, just like we used to. Yes, this live, thank you for reminding me. This will be available in my Facebook group. All of my replays of my lives go up in my Facebook group. Link is in my bio. And so once you find yourself back in this hopeless, helpless place, even though this hopeless you is what's causing it, it deepens the cycles of false belief, of guilt, right? You're being tortured and you don't realize it. And you feel like you're basically at fault for sucking at life. It's awful. It's awful. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. So, we can't convince the childhood magnet to flip around so we can create unity. So who has to do it? right? We don't get to put the abuse back on the person who abused us. In very rare scenarios did they actually commit a crime that's punishable by law, for which the statute of limitations has not passed, for which they could actually, that they're still living anyways to be tried and convicted and sent to jail. That the legal system is not where we find justice for these things. In fact, for trauma, there is no justice. This is why in countries where they've had genocides, they don't host a sort of Nazi Nuremberg trial type thing where they just hang all the bad guys, because they would just have to be doing a reverse genocide. They'd have to execute a good number of the population. So what do they do in South Africa or Rwanda, right? After apartheid in South Africa, did they have a tribunal where they tried and hanged anyone who had ever? No, they had a truth and reconciliation. Truth, so that people could move on. And reconciliation, saying, I am willing, now that someone has acknowledged what happened to me, now I can begin the hard work of moving on. And that's what you need. You don't need justice. You don't need it all to go away. It starts with truth, and it sucks. I'm not saying that like this is a one-stop easy solution. It sucks. I've been through it. I've been in therapy for 3 years. Okay. It's not easy by any stretch. However, once you follow this thread all the way through, when I get done with you, is losing some weight going to seem all that challenging? No, because you will have become aware of what's been going on inside of you for decades. And you'll see it and you'll understand it. And when these things rise up, you may start to resist and fight back, but you'll actually learn to meet them with compassion. And you'll be like, well, this feels weird. Guess what you're doing? You know why it's weird? Because it's what loving yourself looks like. Most of us have no idea how to love ourselves. We could want to, but then we're like, but how? Do I just like go, ugh? Do I try to Care Bear myself? Do I try to blast myself with some sort of rainbow of love? No, that doesn't work. That doesn't do shit. This is how you love yourself. It's these places. When you ask yourself, why am I swimming in the middle of the ocean? Stop asking yourself, how fast can I get to land? What diet do I need to get there? Ask yourself, how am I swimming in the ocean to begin with, when seemingly all I want is to be on land? And if you start asking that question and follow that thread, you will not find a scary, deep, dark dungeon of demons. You will find a little piece of you, frozen in time, desperate to be loved, seen, and feel safe, to get back what was taken, that innocence. Now, you may be saying, John, how do I possibly impart innocence? I'm 55 and I'm frazzled. Yeah, we're talking about losing weight. You better believe we're talking about losing weight. We're talking about why you gained weight to begin with. You want weight loss to happen? You want it to be easy? You want it to be doable? You want to get it off and not just gain it right back? That's what we're talking about. So you may be saying, John, how as an older person who's just been through the ringer with this shit, how do I impart to that little me that I have no innocence, I have no safety or sense of love to return to this little me? How do I do that? There's a lot that we could get into, a lot of things. Like, people are getting mad at me that I'm not talking about cutting carbs. Okay, here's real quick. Here's how you lose weight. Here's everything you need to know. Move more and eat less than you currently do. A little bit, not too much. And over time, as weight loss slows down, either up the activity or lower the calories. Don't do it for more than 2 or 3 months without a break. Rinse and repeat. Okay, that's how you do it. Now, why has no one done that ever in the history of humanity? The stuff we're talking about right now. This is the real stuff. This is the real reason that we end up in places where we don't want to be. So how do you love yourself? How do you love this little you? Okay, so somebody once used a metaphor that really helped me understand, okay? And I think that trauma is fundamentally a bandwidth issue, okay? A lot of people talk about trauma like, oh, my boss was mean to me. I have PTSD from when I worked at Costco. It's like, no, you don't have PTSD. You had a job, and jobs suck. I'm not saying you could not be legitimately traumatized by your boss at Costco. I'm sure it could happen or has happened. Real trauma, the way that messes you up well into adulthood, usually happens as a bandwidth issue. Something happens when you're 8 that you cannot process, right? We cannot process what's happening. So it overwhelms us. Our brains literally go into a state of paralysis. We lose our sense of duration of time. We lose our ability to talk to ourselves, right? The part of your brain that is responsible for formulating, when you're trying to find that word that's on the tip of your tongue, it's because that part of your brain isn't clocking at high speeds. This is the part of the brain that often goes dead when people have a stroke, right? It's why they can't speak. When you are experiencing a traumatic flashback, you have basically had a very small stroke because that part of the brain, through different mechanisms, has turned off, right? This is why it's very hard to just to have these emotional issues of PTSD and just grind your way to success. And it doesn't matter how big and tough and macho you are. Nobody just grinds past trauma. What can happen, though, is that you're not 8 anymore. If you actually... The hardest part, the part that most people never get to, is even seeing the smaller version of you that's at play in all the things that are holding you back, right? Because if we do think of something that's holding us back, we think of it as a big, scary thing that's from outside of us that's trying to hurt us. Or we think of it as some innately bad part of us, right? And neither one is really the case. It's a confused part of us and a hurting part. But here's the good news. You aren't 8. You might be all kinds of screwed up, but you aren't 8, okay? That means that you, through just being who you are, can transmit an alternate perception, an elevated, expanded perception of an adult to that 8-year-old. Here's how, okay? Have you ever helped an 8-year-old with their math homework? Okay? I'm not talking about 10-year-old, because past 10 years old, most people would probably start to have problems. But if you see an 8-year-old doing their math homework, what are they doing? Yeah, 8 years old. I'm just using it as an example. Kid, right? Have you ever helped an 8-year-old with their math? It's like addition and subtraction. They might be adding 3-digit numbers or something like that. But it's nothing you can't handle. If you can tutor an 8-year-old in how to do math, you can begin the process of shepherding a lost, scared 8-year-old to a place where they realize that what happened to them when they were 8 can't hurt them anymore, because it's not 1993 anymore. It's 2021. And here, algebra can't hurt you, okay? So what happens if you're 8 and someone puts you in algebra class, what would happen? Every single 8-year-old that happened to would just be like, and if somebody started judging you, or you started judging yourself for not being good at algebra, you could see how this would just spiral out of control. And if that same 8-year-old is looking around and going, does anybody else see the insanity of this? And no one saw it? If no one saw that you were being overwhelmed by something that you felt guilty even talking about, how would you know? right? So if an 8-year-old could be completely overwhelmed, it would exceed their bandwidth to be placed in an algebra class. But you eventually took algebra, you learned all the math, right? You could tutor that 8-year-old. Because why? Because you continue to expand and grow and learn. You are, even though you're broken, you are however old you are, and you have all the benefit of the experience and everything you've learned to become proficient at and excellent at in that time. Whether you are, living your best life or not, you have gifts, you have interacted with them in some way, right? You're not the same as you were when you were little. And you do have a capacity, even if it's small, to begin to parent that little you in a way, right? So when an 8-year-old says, "I want candy," the parent knows, no, you need a stimulation and you're bored. You don't need candy. You never need candy. Go outside. Go play. And if the kid says, "No, I don't want to," right? It's like, okay, I can tell my kids, "Go outside and play because I said so." That doesn't really work. But if I just trick them into playing, then it's like, what candy, right? If I try to convince them or force them to do stuff, they're gonna resist just because they're human beings, right? But if you can put them into a state of play, all of a sudden they're outside running around. I'd be puking if I tried to exercise as hard as they're exercising, just playing, just dorking around. Because the kids are good at slipping into play. Okay, and the replay to all this will be up in my Facebook group. If you've missed the first part, I'll put up the whole replay. That's awesome, John. So it starts to make sense, right? I know that this sounds kind of spacey, but I think you guys have maybe, if you've been watching my videos, you understand that I might talk about stuff that seems a little bit new agey or religious or spiritual, but when it comes down to it, it's all intensely practical. So why are you out in the middle of the ocean wondering why you can't swim to shore? You have arms, you have legs, you want to swim to shore, but you've been wondering why you can't. And every time you try, you can't. And so the guilt and all these cycles just go a little bit deeper. The rut gets a little bit ruttier. So we've learned that, hey, there's actually something else at work here. Good. That damn skill. Oh, Mickey, hey. Yeah, I'm thankful that I got on social media and started sharing this stuff. I'm surprised to see how much it's impacting people, honestly. So we started to examine, hey, there's someone else here in the boat. I'm trying to row to shore, and they're trying to row me out into the middle of the ocean. Okay? And it's easy to think, well, this person wants me to die. But what if that person, right? We all know, has anyone gone through lifeguard training? You learn that a drowning person is the most dangerous thing. The best way to drown in the ocean is to try to save someone else who's drowning, right? Is anybody aware of this? Because people who are drowning, they go into a panic mode where they will cling to anything around them to try to not drown. Try explaining to a drowning person logically that, hey, it's not going to help anyone if we both drown. This is what's happening when you want cookies, even though you don't want cookies. It's not that the person who's drowning is a demon who's trying to kill you. They're not a monster. They're just a panicked animal who is seeing red and whose basal ganglia is now taken over. The lizard brain inside of us, deep inside of us, has taken over because of, why? Traumatic situation, right? When we get into fight or flight, this doesn't work so good. A much older system takes over, okay? This is why you seem to not have control when your anxiety gets too out of control, because you literally don't. your different parts of your brain shut off. And if you have profound PTSD and you wonder why you just feel completely dead on the inside, it's because your brain is literally off. Big, huge centers of your brain are just not, they're not on. The brain scans of people with severe PTSD, they just show like big blank spots where there should be executive function, where there should be a sense of self. These things, they don't erode, they're still there. The lights just aren't on. So in the same way that a drowning person could easily take you down with them, so can something inside of you be working furiously against your best interests, even though it's just trying to save you. It's just trying to save itself. Why? Because when it was little, it didn't have the best options. It had shitty options. And it was forced through something that made it feel powerless and hopeless. It was forced to look for the best option available. Now, for a lot of people, if you're an 8-year-old who's going through something that makes you feel, maybe mom and dad are screaming at each other in the next room, right? Your whole world is now in a civil war. This is trauma. Because how can an 8-year-old watch their world fall apart, watching mom and dad fight? It's like if you went to church one Sunday and all of a sudden, the pastor is in a fist fight with Jesus. It'd be like, what? Wait, what? Do I gotta choose sides? I mean, it's like your whether it's your religious worldview or the worldview that just comprises your home, which is quite religious when you think about it. Your parents are your God for the first few years of your life. They comprise everything you know. And so when you watch something bad happen to your parents, or when you watch your parents do something bad, or when you watch your parents do bad stuff to one another, that's just one example of the kind of stuff that can make a kid feel completely destitute and like they've lost their innocence and feel hopeless and helpless. And guess what? Most 8-year-olds don't have access to black tar heroin. Most 8-year-olds don't have access to Cool 100s or Camels. Most 8-year-olds don't have access to sweet crack cocaine. Most 8-year-olds don't have access to Jim Beam or Jack Daniels or any of the fine products from the Tennessee, Kentucky area. Most 8-year-olds do not have a bottle of Jameson in the nightstand or the bottle of vodka in the closet. Most 8-year-olds do not have pornography on the ready. Most 8-year-olds, at least they didn't used to, most 8-year-olds do not have, do I need to go on? Do you get it? Most 8-year-olds do not have access to things that we normally associate with adult addiction, right? All the flashy stuff. 8-year-olds have usually 2 things. Yeah, 8-year-olds also can't get into the casino, but 8-year-olds have access to 2 things that historically they've enjoyed doing that now can take on way more of a significance because they used to just do it because it was nice to do. And it was something essential to life or just nice. And now they're doing it because the sky has broken in half. And like, if they don't cling to something, they feel like they're going to fall off the edge of the earth. And they have no one to tell about this. Who remembers watching their parents fight? Did we all get to go to therapy on Thursday and tell them about it? No. None of us were in therapy when we were 8. Kids have TV and food. Speaking of kids, I got one knocking at the door. Will you guys hang tight if I just go unlock the door for my kid in 2 seconds? Just hang tight. Okay, thanks for bearing with me. So, think about it. There probably isn't anyone on here who has thought, oh, I know why I can't lose weight. TV. However, if I asked you, how many people in here are overweight to some or all of the extent because of how they eat? We're all going to raise our hands, right? Okay. Now, what if I asked you, how many of you eat when you are eating inappropriately for your health goals? How many of you do it in front of the TV? Does this mean you all need to stop watching TV? I don't know. That's not really the point. The point is just to illuminate for you where this is coming from, right? If you have dealt with cigarettes, alcohol, the casino, all that stuff, right? These were things that entered in later. You may not have any of the classic societally frowned upon addictions. You may have one of the societally celebrated addictions, which is eating and watching TV. The TV is our campfire. It's when we get a quiet moment with our spouse, we sit around the TV, we watch Netflix. I mean, this is it is the table. We used to sit around the table as a family. It's very rare that I eat dinner with my family around a table, right? If I'm spending quality time with my family, a lot of times, I'll tell you this, it's not always in front of the TV, but when I am spending time with my kids at the table versus in the living room, it's definitely 10-1 or 20-1 in favor of the living room. So, let's back up. What am I talking about? Am I saying you shouldn't watch TV? No, I'm just trying to point out that you eat because of things that happened that made you feel a certain way. So now when things happen that make you feel a certain way, you eat. And there's a cause and effect that we do not have the intellectual capacity to undo. You don't get to argue your way out of this. You don't get to cowboy up. You don't get to grind your way out of this. There is no amount of machismo or woman-chismo or anything that is going to change these cycles. The only thing, and there is no justice, right? Even if we put that person in prison, little you is still going to be terrified. Little you doesn't know. They don't know that it's okay right now. They don't know that the sky is blue and you have a job and people who love you. They don't know that you have all the reasons in the world to choose vibrant, colorful, healthful foods that make you feel good. They can't see any of that. Why? Because they're in a dark hole. And when you get near to them, you feel that panic, and so you panic. You resist them at all costs because you fear the feelings that they're feeling. And this is why you turn around when you're not looking and grab the oars and paddle in the same direction as this thing. Oh, just to shut it up. Okay, fine. Here's your nachos and your TV. Just shut up and don't scare me. I don't want to be scared. I don't want to be this uncomfortable. I don't want to be fucking terrified. So fine, I'll just eat the ice cream. And you eat the ice cream, and all of a sudden, someone made the monster go away for a minute, and you think, ice cream makes the badness go away. And you know it doesn't. However, it deepens the cycle that started when you were a kid. When one time you grabbed a carton of ice cream to try to drown out mom and dad fighting in the next room. You grabbed a carton of ice cream to try to drown out the fact that your world was falling apart around you. It's very sad. And I have all the sympathy in the world for anybody and everybody who's gone through this. I have a lot of sympathy for people who have no idea. I can see it, but they have no idea what is driving their behavior, what is driving their need to always be right, their need to put other people down, right? I can see that they're doing it because they're broken and scared inside. So, how do you get the weight off and keep it off? It's like, how do they make the bomb not blow everybody up? At the end of the movie, how do they make the bomb not blow everyone up? Do they piece by piece unscrew every part of the bomb? No. They find the green wire and they cut it off at a root level, and then the bomb just goes beep beep and it doesn't explode. You defuse the thing. You don't fight a bomb. The good guy has probably fought 900 guys throughout the movie, right? So when it's time to fight the bomb, right? He starts kicking the bomb, right? That's how the movie ends. No, if that's how the movie ended, that guy and everyone in the city would be blown up. You don't defuse a bomb to save the city by fighting it or pretending it's not there. Neither one works. Every day, we are the bomb squad getting called in to this shit. And we either try to pretend it's not there, or we start kicking. Or we start explaining to that, listen, bomb, I'm on keto now, and I don't do carbs, and we're turning over I'm motivated now. That's the difference. The bomb doesn't give a shit. The bomb does not give a shit that you're motivated. It's never given a shit that you're motivated. Kaboom! Bye, motivation. And this is why if you try to motivate your way out of your weight loss issues, if you try to argue your way out of your weight loss issues or your emotional issues, if you try to fight your way out of it, if you try to grind, brother, the only way to end the war is not justice, is not building a bigger bomb. The only way to end the war is to stop fighting. Stop fighting and hating this thing that's inside of you. Look around. This shit that's been making you eat and not exercise and do all these things that you don't want to do, it's not outside of you. It's not hovering around you. It's in here. Discipline and motivation. I'll get there, Hadley, but discipline, don't even get me started. Discipline is a mostly useless way. It's just a stick. It's just a different stick that people use to beat themselves over the head. I'll talk about discipline more. You need to want it bad enough. Okay, this is also false. There is no wanting the bomb to be turned off that makes the bomb turn off. And if you're wondering what I'm talking about, go watch the replay to this whole video when I put it up on my Facebook. Yeah, people always ask me, John, how do I get motivated, right? How do I want it bad enough? And it's like, do you have to tell a drowning person to want to not drown? That's ridiculous. That's literally silly talk. Okay? Drowning people they're not looking for the will to live. That's why they'll take you down. They're desperate to live. What they need is hope. They need a freaking life raft. They need one of those lifesaver things. They need someone to throw them a friggin' rope. They do not need someone to go, you wouldn't be drowning if you just wanted it bad enough. So So if you can show compassion to the parts of you that are hurting, and eventually learn to love them instead of fear them, you will find that all this darkness you've been running from has only been dark because you've been afraid to look at it. And this is the great paradox, right? It does take courage to look into the darkness. It does. But it's not that rise and grind, brother, kind of false courage that we're so often pushed and encouraged to look for, right? The false courage of discipline. Discipline, like weight loss, is not something you get by setting out to get it. The best way to have discipline is to not try to have discipline, because discipline is baked into the things we love, okay? Does Michael Phelps swim every day because he's disciplined? Or from the outside, does it look like he's disciplined because he loves swimming? Nobody made Michael Phelps swim. The dude likes swimming, okay? You don't win 34 gold medals if you don't like swimming, okay? We're out here like trying to convince ourselves to get in the water. You don't have to swim. You don't have to. All right, let's not worry about if there's a troll in the comments. Just ignore it, okay? So we'll talk about this more. I just really want to get through to you that the things that are happening inside of you, this constant back and forth, this tension, this war inside of you, this is why you were exhausted. Getting up and going for a walk isn't why you're exhausted. Okay? We spend how many... our brains are just completely... They're just Swiss cheese. I mean, we spend all day, every day, just in an absolute knockdown, drag-out war. And we know it's not right. We know there's got to be a better way, but we don't know what it is. And right now, we just want the friggin' 4-year-old to eat their friggin' carrots so we can put them in bed, so we can get screamed at for trying to read them a story at night, right? It's thankless, and it's... Okay, what's going on? Okay, they're not. People are talking smack in the comments. It's so distracting. I wish I could just like not see the comments. I'm trying to wrap this up. What time is it? Oh, it's been an hour. Jeez. So just becoming aware that this fight is happening is huge, because awareness is like a light. Okay? It will show you the truth. And the truth is you've been avoiding it because of the way it made you feel a long time ago. And it's easy to think that if you were to see the truth in its full, awful totality, that it would overwhelm you the way it once did. But I'm talking as someone who has seen a lot of horrible trauma that I didn't want to see, and admit that it happened. I'm telling you that you are bigger than these things inside of you. You are the space that these things have been in, always. 1 minute after it happened, you were bigger. And you continued to get bigger. All your life, you've been getting bigger than this thing. It's just been like that little knot in the tree. The tree continues to grow. The knot is still malformed, but the tree is much bigger. And you have the capacity to hold these things, to love these things. I am talking about weight loss. In fact, this is arguably the most important conversation you can ever participate in when it comes to weight loss. Weight loss is something that, honestly, if somebody says, hey, I'm going to go lose 100 pounds right now, would you put money on them to fail or succeed? And I'm not talking about being nice or just between us, just as logical people who are trying to win a bet. I'd always bet that the person will fail. Why? Because I'm mean? No. Because it's a sad reality. Because I've been on diets too, and I see what happens 99.9% of the time. Okay, I think someone just got muted. So yeah, if some of this isn't making sense, it's because I'm at the end of an hour-long live chat. It's okay. Sometimes the trolls, they need to be here too. The only problem is that I'm getting so distracted. I know I've hit you guys with a lot, but after my last video where I got really real with everyone, and I've seen, the response has been huge. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess TikTok is ready to go there. So in this live chat is the first time I've really started to talk about what's going on the inside, and the hard work we can do, and trying to give you a blueprint so you maintain hope. This is something I've been trying to get to. You don't need motivation. You don't need discipline. You need hope. You need someone to explain to you, listen, the reason you haven't been reaching shore isn't because you suck, or because you haven't been trying, or because, yes, the live will be posted on my Facebook. Link is in my bio. You haven't failed because you are a failure. The entire live is going to go on, the replay is going to go on my Facebook. And it's not your true self that's been holding you back. It's been a piece of you, a piece that you haven't wanted to see. And you've been terrified to see it. For what, in hindsight, when you look at what's been going on, you're like, of course, why would anybody want to be associated with that panic, right? We are the drowning person. We don't want to go near them because we don't want to get taken down too. So we build the awareness. We learn to love that drowning person. Weirdly, they can't take us down. Because an 8-year-old, they're not going to beat me in a fist fight. 8-year-old me can't beat me. Okay? They're not going to beat me in a fist fight. They're not going to beat me at math. I can school them, right? Be the parent who's like constantly, some parents let their kids win competitions to make them feel good. Let's be honest. If every parent was actually running full out in their race with their kid, they'd beat the pants off of them. Okay? Be that way for the little you. Be the parent. Be the bigger space that you are. Don't let this 4-year-old who's screaming get the better of you. If you, just like being a good parent in real life, this stuff all applies. If you've ever taken a deep breath and stopped yourself from screaming curse words at a 4-year-old, you can stop yourself from eating ice cream. Okay? Because it's the same thing. You don't get in a fist fight with the 4-year-old, okay? It's the 4-year-old, the bomb at the end of the movie, it's all the same, right? You're not allowed to fight the bomb. You're by law not allowed to fist fight a toddler, okay? No matter how much you would want to. And it's just as equally useless to do that to the pieces of yourself that are resisting good things. That's the most infuriating thing with being a parent. It's like, why? I'm just telling you to put on a coat because it's 22 degrees Fahrenheit outside. I'm not doing this because I love bossing people around. I'm not a style consultant. I don't care who wears the coat, but I'm just trying to get you to not get frostbite. Why are you fighting me on this? Right? This is the exact same thing that's going on when we're trying to convince a piece of ourselves to not want such destructive things. And the way you end a temper tantrum, if you don't have kids, you pick up the kid and you show them that they are loved first. You don't tell them, listen, you will be loved and safe after you stop having the temper tantrum. You show them that they are in a safe place, sometimes by having firm boundaries. Temper tantrums, with parents who are really good at keeping their boundaries, they have fewer temper tantrums. Why? Because kids are like velociraptors, man. They are going to test the fences, and when they find a hole, they're going to exploit it. And then it's just chaos, right? So let's end the war. The conversation for this live chat is going to end here. The replay will be up on Facebook, so you'll be able to watch it all the way through. And we will be talking about this a lot more. So, I love you guys. Take care. You guys have been a great crowd. Tip your waitresses. And I'll see you on the Facebook page. Lose Weight with John. If you don't have Facebook and you really, really, really want the replay, shoot me an email at johnoakscoaching@gmail.com. I guess, I don't know. Some people have messaged me there. So yeah, I guess we'll see you on the Facebook group. Link in my bio. Lose Weight with John. All right, take care.